Okay, good evening and good moyed. Today, before we start and continue, actually, where we're up to, we did have off last week. It was Yom Kippur. I have to share with a big lesson that I've learned myself. I say one of the learners, but one of the learners here that's in this year saw it firsthand, and I hope it's not going to be boring for him, but I just feel it's very important to share and to just get a concept, and it actually fits in very well to what I wanted to discuss, where we're up to in Chovos Halevavos in Perek Gimel. So as you know, it was my son's bar mitzvah today, Menachem Shalom actually. I'm going to share something that I shared at the bar mitzvah, which I think gives another a big lesson that I learned today, and a big lesson that, I think it's an important concept that I think we need to look into. I didn't think of it in this way, but first, as I said, I'm going to share something about my son. My son, Menachem, who we had his bar mitzvah today, I had an extreme unfortunate experience with him. Obviously, not such unfortunate. It turned out to be very fortunate, but it started off very unfortunate. When he was 2.5 years old, I've had quite a few nisim with this child of mine. I'm sure Hashem has a tremendous tafkid for him in the world, because he's really giving us a lot of strong signs from Shemayim with him. But when he was 2.5 years old on Chol HaMoed, we went as a family, Chol HaMoed Pesach, me, all my siblings, and our kids, and we went for a cruise in Chof Ashdod, as we call it, for a shait. We didn't know much then, and apparently we went in a very unorganized company, completely. And as I said, I could see Brett. So this part you know already. But anyways, we went there on the cruise, and as we came back, it was already dark, and as we're getting there, it's dark. We can't go anywhere, and we're starting to go off the boat. And as I'm walking off the boat with my son, 2.5 years old, I'm holding his hand, and we're walking together, having a nice time. And suddenly the boat was not tied, and we didn't have vests or anything. And the wind comes, and the boat flies back. And suddenly my son's in the air, and his hand fell out of my hand, because I was holding his hand like walking together, not holding him in the air 20 kilos. And he just landed in the water. I'll never forget the image of him screaming, "Tati, Tati," falling under the boat. It was dark. There was literally nothing to do. I started screaming for help, and they called police, called ambulances, but it was quite clear there's nothing happening. My brother, who probably has the schus because he at the time was the only one in Mada, and is the only one that has saved many lives before and still is doing it on a day-to-day basis. He jumped from the other side of the boat, because it was impossible to jump on that side, into the dark water full of oil, and he found my son. And as he told me afterwards, I didn't fall. I jumped in the water and I hit him. He was there. I didn't pick him up, or I didn't look for him. He was just in my hands. And it was a whole story how I got him out of the water, and Baruch Hashem, Father held me over, and we got him in. Obviously, there was a lot of thoughts and excitement and preparation for Menachem's bar mitzvah, especially with my brother, who I've worked very hard to make sure he can come join us for the bar mitzvah. He literally saved my son's life. There's no other way of putting it. He was the right shliach at the right time. And my parents were going to come, and my parents-in-law, and Zbin Azmanim, and once my brother came, so more people. It was supposed to be a very special time. And obviously that all fell apart because of COVID, which was okay. And as I spoke in the bar mitzvah, we realized that at the end of the day, if somebody would have told me when it actually happened, at the moment that my son was drowning, if somebody would have come and told me, well, it is true that he's alive, but there's going to be COVID and he's not going to really have a fancy bar mitzvah. And I don't think I would have taken him that seriously. And in many other times in life, it would have been a very big joke if somebody would have come and said, and said to me something like that. We were okay with it. Now, what happened was, which was challenging, the Sudas bar mitzvah was today at 2:00. And we tried our best. We tried to put something together. This was his only bar mitzvah. I mean, we're not having an event or something, and we only had some family, a close family, and some extended family, biological and non-biological family. But that's pretty much where we were, a very small event. And we set up the sukkah and worked very hard. I could say, Brett's not going to allow me to say that it was his wife and kids and family that were there working from 11 o'clock, making a beautiful event. And as anybody who's in the Shaar listening in Joburg knows that at about 10 to 2, started a bit of a drip and got stronger and stronger and stronger. And it actually poured through the whole bar mitzvah. Obviously, all the work they put in it didn't go down the drain. We do have beautiful pictures from before, and it did give us the great feeling of family, and it did show my son that he had a beautiful bar mitzvah. But at the end of the day, it was all destroyed. There was nothing left of it. And altogether, we kind of got stuff together, went in, we started an hour late. And before I'll get to my lesson, I just have to say that for me, by the way, it was an amazing experience that was worth everything, due to the fact that actually I caught my son running the bar mitzvah boy in the rain. When it really started pouring, I saw for a moment he was with a bit of a tear in his eye, but afterwards I actually saw him, when everybody was inside, running, going around the table, singing literally, thank you Hashem for everything, thank you for this, thank you for other things. So that was an amazing experience that I wouldn't change for anything. The lesson I got from it was that as the storm started coming, I did a certain ishtadlus that I do in a spiritual level, that whenever I'm in stress or I need help and I do it and I invest in it, it always works. It really always works. I always have siyata d'shmaya and no problems. So I davened and I said, this boy, that's his only bar mitzvah he has. His family's away. There's no one here. Please, Hashem, just if he could have a nice bar mitzvah. And it continued raining. So I tried another thing. And I tried another thing. And I tried again something that the same thing I tried before that always works. And I said, maybe I didn't do it good enough. And I tried it again. Same thing again. Obviously, nothing worked. It was pouring. The bar mitzvah had to change locations into the shul. And as I said, it did turn out to be the most amazing experience ever. It did turn out to be a beautiful bar mitzvah. It did turn out to be different than what we planned, but just to see how well my son took it was a message for life. But it taught me that we spoke a lot about the concept over here that a person does his ishtadlus, and once you've done your ishtadlus properly, you got to let go. And I saw, and I could feel it very strongly, that it's also in ruchnius. When I've done the spiritual ishtadlus, that always works. And I've tried another thing. And some family member tried something and it didn't work. Hashem decided that we need this experience, which, by the way, as I said, turned out to be an amazing experience. There's a time to let go, also on a spiritual level. There's a time to say, okay, I get it. I understand. Hashem, I accept. I hear it. I tried my best. Now it's time to let go. And it's clear. It gave me a whole new understanding of Moshe Rabbeinu when he did all his tefillahs. Hashem says one more, and you're going to get it, but you got to stop. Because there's also a time to stop. There's also a time that you got to know, just like there's ishtadlus in the physical world, there's ishtadlus in the spiritual world. And once you've done what you can, there's no benefit of doing the same thing again and again. We've done it, we've tried it. That's what we can do. And there's nothing we can do more than that. And as we'll go through the Chovos Halevavos deeper and deeper, we'll see that actually he compares, on a later stage, he compares the spiritual work that we have to do on a ishtadlus level to the physical, financial even work that we have to do. And we see the comparisons between and the differences between. Anyways, that was my, as we said, we usually start with like a personal experience of mine or somebody else in the Shaar. That was my personal experience. Very intense day, but Baruch Hashem turned out to be amazing. So we were going through in Shaar Habitachon, and I think it actually fits in exactly in looking at it with another way. We're looking at the 7 levels of trust, who you can trust, how you can trust, what will give you the power to trust. And we were up to number 3 of seeing if Hashem does have these 7 qualities of trust. So the first one obviously was that you can trust a person that feels for you and he has mercy on you and he wants for you to have the best. The second thing is that it's a person who knows what to do with his will, right? Now, the third thing, which we were up to, which definitely HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. It's funny to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu has that quality, but it's Chovos Halevavos says it. That's the way Hashem is with us. We said that in order to trust somebody, it's not enough in any relationship. It's not enough that he wants to do good. You got to know that he's strong enough to do what he committed to. And there's no question that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is strong enough to do anything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could do anything. He can do. He did anything. He created the world. He created everything. He's the base of everything we have. So Mela, we see that if you can trust anybody, it's only Hashem, because he has the quality of the ability of being strong enough for anything. And as HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that anything Hashem says should happen, will happen. Okay, Varavi, which is very relevant, that he's watching every single person. He will not let go of them, and he will not ignore them, and he will do what's the right thing. Even if we look at our experience from today, from the Bar Mitzvah, I mean, you have to be very, very, I don't know what the word would be, ignorant maybe, I don't know, to say that after such a beautiful sukkah, that we didn't miss a moment in the sukkah. Personally, even the first night when it rained a bit, we were still able to sleep in the sukkah through it. We didn't, and it only started really pouring 10 minutes before the bar mitzvah and ended at the end of the bar mitzvah, literally. It's almost clear, not almost, it is clear that Hashem is telling us, this was calculated. The bar mitzvah was calculated in the world. It was calculated that this is what you need. As we spoke before, I'm just going to give a reminder. I see there's quite a few people that haven't been in other shiurim. There's, as we spoke before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes gives ashirus to somebody. He'll make your neighbor rich and not you. Because compared to somebody, we said about a child who's walking in on the street and the doctor said he's not allowed to have fat and he really wants this burger desperately. And he tells his father, please, and his father says no. And he says, oh, you're being cheap, you're not interested. And his father says, oh, that's what you think? Fine, I'll walk into the shop, pay for everybody's burgers, and my son is not getting. Why? Because it's not good for you. Sometimes Hashem will give the people around us shefa just so we can see that it's not a challenge for Hashem to give. It's not something he can't. It's just, for them, it's the right thing. For us, it's not. Or even for them, it's okay. It's not even the right thing. It's okay. But for us, it's not. And just to see that we can do it. So it's quite clear when you see a situation, even if something that looks like it's negative, But sometimes you get the ability to see it so clear and so strong. And then Hashem calculates everything from big to small, everything's there. He does not forget anything. He does not miscalculate. He does not run into an error and say, well, it works for this guy not so much. Okay, whatever, we'll see. Everything's perfect. He brings an interesting pasuk. He says, "Halo yadata im lo shamata, Elokim Hashem borek tzot haaretz, lo yi'af velo yiga en cheker letvonoto." Hashem borek tzot haaretz, the edges. HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates both angles, both sides of the world, completely covered in both sides of the world. Everything is clear, everything is strong, everything is with its full power. Okay, so we see, so the fourth thing is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu watches us with full power. V'chamishi, the fifth thing, that if you're looking who you can trust in the world, and this is amazing, the chamishi, because it's actually the days we're living in. והחמישי שאין ביד אחד מהברואים לא ילס נפשי ולא להזיקו ולא יזולוסי כי אם ברשוס הבוירה יסבורך. Anything that's in control, anything that happens in the world, can only happen with the authorization of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And nobody can bring it and nobody can stop it. Living in a generation, if we look at what's happening even in this week, that the person that's considered the strongest person in the free world, obviously it's not the free world. They're slaves to their desires and to they're chasing the Averis and chasing their life and money and whatever. But the free world, what we call America, you see the president, he got tested positive. Now we're talking about somebody who has a division of the most strong people in the world, most talented people in the world, that their job is to protect him, to make sure he's safe. So all these top professionals of the FBI and the CIA and whatever it is, all the initials you can think of, they're all there standing with full strength, full power, and they can't manage to control him that he will not get the disease, COVID, or whatever it is. Because Hashem decided that he will get. So then it's not in control. So if you want to trust somebody, it's so much easier to trust somebody when you know that he's the only power in control. Now in this case, first we saw it last time from the human side. Now we're seeing it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's side. There's no question that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one in control. The only one that can decide what will be and how it will be. Therefore, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one that can decide what will be and how it will be, then you can't trust anybody else. More than that, if a person will trust Hashem and somebody else, or like we say something, we used to say, I trust Hashem, but I actually, about the bread tomorrow, I trust Pick and Pay that they'll open and sell bread, and I trust my boss who'll give me a salary. So then you're not trusting only Hashem, then it becomes conflict. If you need to deal with somebody and you don't trust him completely, then you can't have the full strength. One of the interesting things that we see, I was speaking about one of the shuls here over Yom Tov about sukkahs. Interesting point came out. We speak about sukkahs and we speak about the power of sukkahs, that we're sitting under the hands of Hashem. So one of the rare mitzvahs like sukkahs that Hashem says, you got to sit in the sukkah because ki basukkah yisashavti eschem. Not only that Hashem says you got to sit in the sukkah, he says this is why. So if we want to understand what were the sukkahs that we sat in, we sat in complete strength and authority from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if we look at the things that Hashem gave us in the Midbar, it's an amazing thing. We look at the things and we see we had the Ananei HaKavod, which was the sukkahs, and we had the be'er, the water, and we had the man. Now the man has a very unique quality. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that Hamarbeh lo didn't get more. Whoever took more man than he was supposed to didn't get it, and whoever took a little bit got enough. Basically, if you went out to get your man and you just decided to carry half the amount, you get home and you had the full amount. Or you decided to take loads of man home, you get home and you still have only the same amount, you don't gain from it. And it's interesting why the Torah brings that as a quality. I get it. So if the person who has man and he takes a little bit and he comes home and he has a lot, I get it. That's amazing. That really is amazing. You go to work, your boss pays you 10,000 rands, you come home, you have 15,000 rands in your account. Sounds cool to me. But what happens, what's the big power that you get from your boss 20,000 rands and you come home and there's 15,000 rands because that's what you need? Why? Let the Jews enjoy another 5,000, another 10,000, let them have more. What's the big deal? And why is it so powerful that by man, you can't have more and you can't have less? So the understanding of it is exactly what we're talking about here. A person can never be happy if he doesn't know he has what he needs. He doesn't know he has the maximum. If a person is always feeling, well, yes, I have enough food now, I'm living in a house, I have what I need, but if I go to business or if I do this or if I do that, I'll get more. And then when he does that, there's no reason for that feeling to leave him. Why would the feeling of getting more leave once you have more? Because already now it's not a real feeling. Already now it's a real feeling. It's not a reality, because already now if a person is in a situation that he has enough and he doesn't go to sleep hungry and he has a house and he has where to live and he has what he needs, but he says, no, I need for the future. Okay, so the future is endless. One person says, I need for the future a little bit. Then he has that. So he says, well, I need for the future if Chas v'Shalom another pandemic comes. And I need for the future if, I don't know, lightning and thunder hit my car and I need a new car. I'm sure everybody could guess their own thing. The feeling of needing more and extra never ends. It is always there. So the only way to avoid that, if somebody, which is Sukkot is the time we're talking about, eats man, and he knows that he has what he needs, and there's no reason to try to get more, then you're calm. Then you're not stressed. So the same thing, if you want to trust somebody, you could only trust one. If you trust only one strength, one power, then you can be calm, because that one koyach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem will give you what you need. And if you don't get it, you don't need it. Must be. Because if you need it, Hashem would have brought you, because we saw that He cares and He looks after us and He knows all the details and He knows how the world works. He knows what the strengths are. And now we're up to it that He's the only power and you can rely on Him. So then why try to go someplace else? Anybody would tell you in chinuch, we see all the time that if a child knows that he can get contradicting answers from parents, he won't grow as strong and safe when he knows that his parents are very strong and they'll answer together. He won't find the situation that if his mom said no, he'll go to his father, he'll say yes. Or his father says yes, so mom will say no, whatever it is. Then he can grow in a much healthier environment. The same thing with this. If you trust Hashem properly and you say, okay, I trust Hashem, I don't need to trust me going to work, I don't need to trust my friend, I don't need to trust the community because I trust Hashem, then you'll have what you need and you'll be much more calm. That's a massive concept of Sukkot, that we're sitting in the Sukkah protected by Hashem. We're sitting in the Sukkah understanding that Hashem is looking after us, and what we have is what we need. If we don't have it, we don't need it. Up to the degree that we see that Yaakov Avinu, he went back for a few small vessels, right? I'm not going to go into details, everybody knows it. He goes back. And says Rashi, why? Ki tzadikim, mamoinam chaviv aleim yoser migufam. Because tzadikim, their money is more important than their bodies. Any friend of mine that I would tell them, I think about you, I got to the conclusion you care about your money more than your health, more than your life, more than your body. At best, he won't want to talk to me again until he calms down. Maybe Yom Kippur, he'll forgive me. Who can I say it to? My friend, you have a great quality. Your money's so important to you more than your family, more than your life. We can't say that. So how come Rashi comes and he says about Yaakov Avinu? Tzadikim mamoinam chaviv aleim yoser migufam. And it's a very simple concept. Yaakov Avinu comes and he understands something clear. It is clear to Yaakov Avinu that if Hashem gave him this vessel, if Hashem gave him this money, it's for a purpose. So if he's going to lose it, then it won't fulfill its purpose. So then he's investing tremendously to go get it. And the side point, why more than his body, is because, just to explain, is because if you understand that your body, you only have your body to serve Hashem. Everything is there in order just to serve Hashem, then your money has more strength and more power than your, sorry, just had to reject a call. Okay, so your money has a much more value than your body, because your body is very limited how much you could work. You could work a whole day with your body to do mitzvahs, but then you need to sleep at night. Or you could, these days in Johannesburg or wherever you are in the world, do a lot of chesed where you are, but not necessarily you'll be able to do it in other places because you're here. So your body is very limited to how much mitzvahs they can do. You can do one mitzvah at a time. You could do one thing. But your money is unlimited. If you have money doing tzedakah, you could do tzedakah 24 hours a day, even for your family and kids. Think about it. If you have kids living with you in your house and you're doing chesed for your kids, especially if they're older than the age that you're mechuyev halachically to support them, so you're doing chesed 24/7. So by paying your mortgage, you're doing chesed every moment. By owning a house, you're doing chesed every moment to the people living with you. Your body is doing chesed limited. Some people can do chesed when they're awake, and some people probably it's chesed to the world when they're sleeping. Not chas v'shalom anybody in this year, but theoretically, right? But it's very limited, however you look at it. But if you look at somebody, your finances can help consistently. Your money can even do mitzvahs after you're not here anymore. A person who has left the world, but he left his money with building Torah and building things and doing mitzvahs, it's continuing to profit him. That's why tzaddikim amoinu chavivim aleim yesel migufam. But the concept is very clear. Yaakov Avinu, he's very rich. He was very rich at the time, but he wasn't going to let go of those vessels because if Hashem gave it to him, it was for a reason. But you could only live that way if it goes both ways, and that's a fascinating thing. We don't live that way. We don't stress if we lose a few rands because, Hashem gave it to me for a reason, and I obviously didn't fulfill what I'm supposed to. We may stress if we lose a few rands, but not necessarily because what are we going to do with the mitzvah that we were supposed to do with these rands? So therefore, we stress if we don't have the rands. But if somebody is living like this, knowing that Hashem knows exactly what's the right thing, and he trusts only Hashem, so then if he has money, he knows that it's for what Hashem gave it to him for whatever purpose. If he doesn't, he knows that he doesn't need it. So he's not stressed. And that is the both sides of that power, that you could only you could trust Hashem, and you can't trust anybody else. You can't even trust yourself because you don't know all these things, that what is exactly good for you. You don't know what will turn out to be the best because there's always debates, and life is about making decisions. But we don't make decisions when we know for sure what the best way is. We assume this is the best way. We don't know. Only Hashem knows. And nobody could, and as I said, nobody could damage us or benefit us if it's not Hashem's will, regardless of how strong we are or how weak we are. Nobody can benefit or lose. And just like we see that, as I said a few moments ago, that you see a president that the whole world is trying to protect and he's getting the disease. We know also the other side. Bianca Galinsky said an amazing thing. Bianca Galinsky was nifter a few years ago. Tremendous guy. A Magid, Talmid Chochem, you can imagine. He was a small guy physically, and he was very fragile. And he wrote, I saw in the Sefer, and I've heard it from him, so that when he came to Siberia, he was in Russia, he was learning Torah, and as all good Jews that were learning Torah that were caught, he was sent to Siberia. And he says that when he got to Siberia, which was freezing cold, and he was a person that used to get sick consistently during the winter in Russia, he says as soon as he got to Siberia, he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it says that tzini mupachim, that regarding being, hakol bidei shomayim, chutz mitzini mupachim, everything's in Hashem's hands, except for if you'll get sick. If a person is not responsible, he'll get sick. That's your hishtadlus to be responsible. Therefore, if a person gets sick because of him not being responsible, it's not because Hashem Kaviyachol was his decision. We have to understand. Maybe we'll get to that one day what exactly it means. But it's a person's. It's every individual's responsibility. So he says, as soon as he got to Siberia, he said, "Well, Hashem, normally, if a person gets sick, it's his responsibility. However, he says, you sent me to Siberia. There's no way I can control myself from not getting a cold and getting sick. Now it's your responsibility." And he said that for all the years, and I don't remember how much it was, but it was quite a few years that he was in Siberia. He said he watched people get sick and die. He watched people freeze to death. He said nothing. He didn't even get a smallest cold. When he was released, he went from Siberia straight to England. A long story, I think it was Yom Kippur. He got to England, and he got a cold, and he got sick. And he realized that was exactly the point. Once he got back to England, it was already his responsibility to wear a jacket. But he forgot after so many years in Siberia that if he goes to England, he'll get a cold. But that's what happened. So we see that normally every person has to take control and trust Hashem, except for things that a person needs to take control. But if he can't, then again, it's in Hashem's hands, and Hashem will take the control. Okay. Number six is, as we said, one second, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows very clearly. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows if a person knows clearly how much good Hashem gives the person, and the only reason we're here is because Hashem created us, because He cares about us, because of the good that He wants to give us, not because we deserve it. Even if a person feels such a big tzaddik that he deserves all the good, obviously he wasn't tzaddik when he was born. So why was he created? Because Hashem cares and Hashem wants to do good for us. So we said the number six quality that if you would want to rely on a human being is that if it's consistency. If you see that he's been with you, caring, helping, doing what he can for you for many, many years, then you could feel confidence and calm to trust him, especially if it's from when you're young. So, we have a natural feeling, even when we have sometimes maybe challenges and conflict with parents, we do have a natural feeling of trusting Hashem. Trusting our parents. Why? Because since a very young age, they were always looking after us and giving us the strength and the koyach that we need. So, if a person looks at Hashem, from when we were born, Hashem brought us into the world and did only good to us. Even us, many times, we can be in our 30s. We can be, as I said, in our 30s, 40s, stressed about finances. But if we would just stop and look back and say, well, for the past 40 years, did we actually go to sleep hungry? Did we actually not have clothes? Did we actually get stuck? Usually the answer would be that we survived. Maybe there were harder times and nicer times and easier and challenging, but at the end of the day, we survived. Which means that for years and years, from the day we were born, Hashem is showering us with good. So eventually, if a person thinks, he'll say, okay, you know what, it's time for me to trust Hashem. I've been getting all this for years. From the day I'm born, I'm not hungry, I have what I need. I can trust Hashem. It's consistent. It's going very, very with full power for a very long time. That's number 6. Number 7, that if a person understands that not only that Hashem decides what will happen and how it will happen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides when it will happen. When it will happen, You can't make it happen faster than you're supposed to, and you can't make it happen later than it's supposed to. And we've seen many stories and many times that things that were tried so many times didn't work out, and then when the right time came, it worked out very easily. Why? Because not only that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world in a level of what we'll get and how we'll get, it's also Hashem runs the world in a way that we will get at the right time. And here's the thing, and this is very interesting, and I'm sure I've said it before, but it's okay. I tell it to myself all the time. This is a very I see it. The reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us something or takes away from us something has nothing to do with what he decided if we'll be happy or upset. And what do I mean about that? And just in a very simple way, if somebody Chas v'Shalom gets robbed, robbers come into his house, empty out the house, he has nothing left. He's devastated. And somebody tells him, there's a guy here, he'll recover everything. He charges 5,000 rands. And you'll go to this detective, you'll give him 5,000 rands, and the next day he'll call you and he'll say, listen, I recovered everything. You're obviously going to be very, very happy. You got everything you own back. Now, if we look in the reality, you just lost 5,000 rands. You paid 5,000 rands to the detective. You shouldn't have paid. So you lost 5,000 rands, but you're extremely happy. We see that the loss has nothing to do with happiness. We also see it the other way around. Somebody is sitting one day Chol HaMoed in his house, enjoying, and then he gets a phone call from the lottery, and they say, just to inform you, you just won 20 million rands. Excited like crazy, and then 5 minutes later he gets a phone call. They're saying, listen, we're very sorry. It was a mistake. It wasn't your tickets. Sorry. Just cancel. You didn't win. But, because we made you feel so upset, you're getting a 5,000 rand gift from us. Now we see somebody who just made 5,000 rands, and he's so upset and so devastated that he didn't win the lottery. Now, he never won, and he never had. And he just got 5,000 rands out of the blue for no reason, and he's still upset. We see that there's no connection directly. I wouldn't say, well, no, sometimes there is, but there's not necessarily a connection between what we'll feel, how happy we will be, and what we get and what we lose. It could be a lot with our feelings of what we do, and it could be also a lot with the circumstance of how it happened. And this is part of what we were davening for in Kippur, which we're still doing before Shana Rabbah, that whatever is decided, if Hashem even decides that we need to lose, let's lose in a happy way. Or if we gain, let's gain in a happy way as well. Let's not gain in a sad way. So we see that if you want to trust somebody, the seventh quality and the last quality that we spoke about, even human being, it's so much easier to trust somebody that when you know that when he says something, it's final. If he said it's going to happen at this and this date, it's not going to happen before, and it's not going to happen after. You can rely on him. I know by us in the family, used to say that we're half yekis. I mean, we never do something early. But anyways, because they say yekis do it not early and not late. But if you have somebody that when he gives a date of what will happen, you can rely on him. You're happy. You're not stressed. Even if you try to push him to do it faster, then you're already not as calm because you're trying to push. Once you realize that it is what it is and it's going to happen at the right time, then you're much more calm. The same thing we see because if we realize that Hashem, not only that all these things we said, he decides when and what, and it doesn't change. He decides the amounts, he decides the times, he decides the location. We see many stories in Chazal. The time is running out, so I'm not going to go into details, but many stories in Chazal that people thought they didn't have a mazel there, they went to there, and negative things or positive things. it also has to be at a certain location. That's how strong and organized and powerful this situation is, and Hashem runs the world. So when you have, and when you look at it and you see these 7 qualities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world with, it is so much easier to trust him. It is so much easier to live with the trust that things are going to work out. Things are going to happen because they can't not happen if he doesn't agree. And for us to push is, in a way, a waste of time. Like I've learned today my lesson that you do your ishtadlus, as we said, and once you've done your ishtadlus, it doesn't help. Even when it's for ruchnias, even if you're doing a spiritual ishtadlus, once you've done your right spiritual, the maximum you can do with spiritual, it doesn't help to do it again and again and again. It's just a time to let go. And if you let go, you're able to stay calm. And if it works out, that means it's the right thing for you. Like we saw by Yaakov, if it's not, then it's not the right thing for you. And then there's no reason for a person to live under that stress. Like we saw, as I said, with the man, with Sukkot, all these things, we see it is completely essential for us in order to have a calm, happy life, to realize that what we got to do is our responsibility. Once we fulfilled our responsibility, the rest is not in our hands, and we can't change it. So we might as well calm down. We might as well relax. We might as well realize that not everything is in our strength and in our power. And Be'ez Hashem, if we have this quality, I'm sure in the next week we will all be signed properly in, and a good pitka that will come Shana Rabbah, and really we will all have, as we said before, Be'ez Hashem, an amazing year of living with Hashem, understanding, enjoying, connecting, and it will be a great opportunity for all of us. Good Moed, everybody, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.